Welcome back to The Big Show. It's Alex Belfield talking to the big stars, and the Kinks are one of the most important and influential rock acts of their generation and time. And of course, Ray Davies, well, he's a genius. He writes everything, he knows everything, and he was part of the Kinks, and he joins us now. How are you?
All right, I write a lot, but I don't know everything.
Well, I don't know about that, you see, because I think a man who can write a good tune is a far better man than most other people, because there's so much rubbish about. When did you get that skill down, and when did you learn how to do it properly?
It's strange. I started writing like most people do as a hobby, and I joined the Kinks. It was my brother's band. We were an R&B covers band, and they were giving us. We got a record deal. We had to do cover records, and I didn't really have any thought about writing songs. And some of the songs, the original songs they presented to us, were so, I hate to say, awful, and so unlike the band. I decided to write my own songs, and I had the idea for You Really Got Me for a few years, and we recorded that. Of course, that went to number one. Then everybody thought I could do it, so people were knocking at the door. And I'd written about 4 songs total, so I had to learn very quickly.
Does that make you nervous then when you have one massive hit? Because, of course, the second one's the important one. Anybody can write one hit, with a million people do that, but it's coming back with something that's even better, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It wasn't a formulaic thing, the follow-up, All Day and All of the Night. It was actually written with my music publisher standing over my shoulder saying, we must, literally in this accent, we must have another hit. And I started thumping out the chords for All Day and All of the Night when I just had the same chords as You Really Got Me, but stuck an odd middle chord, B flat, into it. It just went from there. I think also we were touring a lot. The band were on a high, and that also helps you write when the band's very energized and there's great unity in the band. It's like a soccer team, when they're really on the form, the luck goes with you.
When did it become normal that you switch on the radio and you hear your song, and you hear it here and in Paris and Milan and New York? I mean, that's an international song that people play all over for very different reasons.
Yeah, that's an incredible experience to have that. I just played Switzerland yesterday, played a big festival there for television, and did exactly that. Did a radio interview, and they were playing a lot of these tracks, particularly from this new album I've got out.
Let's go back to your childhood first then. Were you always musical and interested in performing?
Well, I come from this large family, and I guess it's in those days, my parents' generation, they always had a piano in the house, and everybody did a turn at Christmas. And there was 8 of us. So I had 7 siblings, so we were all, performers in one way or another. A lot of scene stealing going on. And I think what it was, my sisters, I had 6 sisters, and they were all much older than I was, and they brought music from their generation, from their era, that I got access to. And particularly one sister who emigrated to Canada sent me the first rock and roll I ever heard, early Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry.
Is there any feeling like that when you hear a song for the first time? And I remember it growing up, and it just moves you and takes you to that next place.
My sister said that Elvis Presley, she sent over Hound Dog and all those hits. And I remember thinking, God, that's so simple. It must be possible to do that. It's not until you actually try to make it that simple it gets difficult. It's the art of simplicity. And that's why things like You Really Got Me, All Day and All the Night are picked up by new generations all the time, because it's almost the first song that a lot of people learn on guitar.
Why did you want to make another album? Isn't it possible you could make something and people go, well, it's not as good as the Kinks?
Yeah, that always happens. Even when you're with the Kinks, we put Waterloo Sunset. I remember that vividly. One of the journalists from the media, the music media, said, "This is not as good as You Really Got Me. It's no You Really Got Me," because it's a totally different song. I think the Kinks, because I was discovering how to write, my music was diverse. The man who wrote Waterloo Sunset, it couldn't possibly be the same person who wrote All Day and All of the Night, but it was. It's the diversity of the music, I think, which has actually inspired, the new music here on this new record.
What is it like being the man that has created so many karaoke classics? Does it bother you when you go on holiday to Benidorm and everybody wants to sing your stuff?
Well, I don't go to Benidorm a whole lot.
I thought not.
I go to the British Legion from time to time. No, it's... I know what you're saying, and it's... I actually did a karaoke. I went to a Korean karaoke house in Austin, Texas, with some friends this year. And I did a karaoke version of All Day and All of the Night, my own song. And I think, they put the lyrics up in front of you. They actually typed out the lyrics wrong.
I hope you corrected them.
No, I just left.
I mean, something like Waterloo Sunset, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, that la, 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 we can all do it, especially when we're drunk. A stroke of genius for you to write that.
Yeah, I think I wrote, like I said, I come from this mad family, wonderful family, but I wrote lots of songs for my dad, and my dad said the secret, if you're going to write songs, is to write something that people can sing in the pub. And he was right in that respect, certainly on some of the songs like Sunny Afternoon.
What was the year that you made it? Did you wake up one morning and think, actually now we've got where we needed to be?
It's because I was very confident, very young. When I was 18 years old, we made You Really Got Me, and we got it sounding the way I wanted it to sound. And we put our equipment in our little Bedford Dormobile van. We drove out from the studio, and I said, that's going to be a number one record. And I think that's the moment I really realised that that particular record would be a success. You just know, it's like painting a picture, writing a book. You just know when something's complete, and it's just a wonderful feeling, and I'm very lucky to have experienced that.
You've been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How important was America for you? Because I know so many try, like Robbie, and it's so important to them, and then fail miserably. Did you actively seek your popularity over there, or did it just happen?
America happened despite ourselves. I mean, we tried every possible way. We even got banned for 4 years. I'm not sure. We still don't know what for. But we went back, and we had to build again after having like 15 big hits all over the world, going back to America with nothing. But it was a cause, It's a great thing about having a tight-knit band. You adopt a cause, and America became a cause. We'd had lots of hits there, but I really wanted to play all over the country. It's a massive country to tour.
We had Cliff on the other week, and I know he talked a lot about skiffle, and Ali Campbell was on the other week. He was influenced by that. I think that was a big part of your upbringing as well, wasn't it? That was kind of the introduction into rock and roll.
Well, it's not so much skiffle, but access to great blues artists like Big Bill Broonzy and Josh White. And skiffle obviously was a derivative of traditional jazz, because the first real skiffle stars, I think it was a Ken Collier trad band incorporated skiffle into their set, and it became a very obviously an art form in itself. People like Lonnie Donegan and Chas McDevitt but my origins, my real inspiration was the American blues.
Tell me about the covers you've done. I mean, one of the greats is Long Tall Sally. I know you did that. Is that as much fun covering someone else's? Because A, you don't get the paycheck for the PRS, and B, it's not yours. You Really Got Me came about because I was given so many awful songs to cover. We did Long Tall Sally because I think Little Richard's a great performer. The first concert I ever saw was Little Richard. But then I think we wanted an identity. The only way we could have the same identity on record as we had on stage, which was, for those days, pretty weird, was to write our own stuff. I want to ask you a question next about the hedonism of being one of the greatest rock and roll stars in the world during the late 60s, early 70s. And we're going to get back to that next, and we're going to play tracks and talk about your new album, which is called See My Friends. It's out now. We're talking to Ray Davies from the Kinks on your favourite local radio station. We're back on your favourite local radio station talking to Ray Davies today. Got a brand new album out called See My Friends. We'll talk about that next. The hedonism, though, of being a rock and roll star, that's something that fascinates me because I'm a deeply unattractive man and I've never had that kind of clamour, the want of people. What is that feeling like? Well, A, I don't think you're deeply unattractive. And B, you're talking to the most shy man in the world. I think people don't get that with me. When I first, because I've got a gap in my teeth, and in the days when the Kinks emerged, and we were on television a lot, the director always used to put me at the back because I had odd teeth. My brother had nice teeth, so he stood in the front. It's as simple as that, really. I think the excess didn't really reach me because they were more interested in my brother. But I wrote the songs, and I did live the lifestyle. And it's luckily I survived it in one piece. I was going to say, just because you got old between your teeth don't mean you can't have fun in show business, because I think it's kind of bigger than that. Once you have a hit record out, it doesn't matter what you look like, does it?
I remember working with a band called Martha and the Vandellas, and Martha Reeves had a gap, and she came up to me and touched my teeth and said, "It's okay, man, you're lucky like me."
Can you indulge me with a couple of stories from the past of people you've met and worked with? Because I don't think there's anybody you haven't worked with over the years. Just give me a couple of showbiz stories, the people who have inspired you that you got to work with.
Inspiration comes in strange forms. You know, I gave an award to when Britpop was at its height. I gave Oasis the Best Newcomer Award, and I said, I think at the stage it's some awards ceremony, and I said, the thing is, I've just won an Inspiration Award, and I gave them Best New Band, and I said the secret is that the new bands inspire me, and there are some great new musicians around. I've just done this record with Mumford & Sons, Paloma Faith, and it's reciprocal. It's obviously I was inspired by the great Big Bill Broonzy and all those great legendary bluesmen and the Stanley Brothers, you know, the country and western music from America. But I think it's a respect thing. I think if you leave the studio, as I've done on this record, it's called "See My Friends," and I thought it was the songs were the friends, but working with Bruce Springsteen was a great honor, really. Working with Bruce, he's a great professional. Knew so much about the Kinks, and when I went to his studio, we talked for about 4 hours about the track he was going to do, and he named all the list of Kinks songs. And I think it's like knowledgeable, respect, and I think that's the most important thing with me.
We see a lot of people on the X Factor who come and go very quickly, but to last forever like you have, I mean, what is it now, 400 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And to be international, have you got to be really, really good?
I don't think it's a question of being good. I think it's really being able to be. I did this TV yesterday, I think, day before yesterday, in Switzerland. And I felt awful before the show. I said, I don't want to do this. And suddenly said, you're on. And something happens when you go on. Same at Glastonbury when I played last year. I didn't want to play. But when you get on stage and it's like people there who want to see you, and it's just something happens, and it's something I can't put into words. It's a magical event.
And is the kick as big today as it was in the 1974?
It certainly was yesterday when I played, so still as big, yeah.
Let's talk about this new album. Is that nerve-wracking for you, going out by yourself without the cover of the Kinks, or is this just a chance for you to shine and show people what you can really do?
I still, in my heart of hearts, like to be part of a group. It's not so lonely, and it's called Ray Davies because that's my name, and I've written the songs. But what's the strange thing about this, working with all the different artists, I feel that in each case we've reached a sort of partnership, and it's almost like being in a group on all the tracks I've recorded, being on a group venture. So it's that's why it's been really interesting and very rewarding for me to do that.
Is it a great payoff now that you can pick up the phone and say to any of those great people who are on the album, would you come and work with me, and they say yes without thinking about it?
Well, I'm sure they'd think about it if they had time, but the fact that they've said yes, and without exception, everybody did the best they could. They didn't throw away a performance, and going back to Bruce, he gave it maximum in the studios, and you can tell when an artist is underperforming, and whether it was Gary Lightbody from Snow Patrol, Amy McDonald, Metallica, everybody gave max.
That Bon Jovi track is tremendous as well, and the Paloma Faith. Which is your personal favourite?
I don't have one. I mean, it varies. It varies. Metallica makes me smile because, like James Hetfield and I were talking before we recorded it, he said, we didn't choose the song chose us. And it's true in a sense, because You Really Got Me is that arc between the original Kinks recording and the power chords that Metallica play now, and it's a connection. So the music endures, and one generation helps another emerge.
And is it nice that your songs have passed the test of time, that you could make them all those years ago and then bring them back today, and they sound just as contemporary released today as they did back then?
I was worried, whether the songs could stand up to it. There's a few songs on here that aren't so well known, but they've really stood up. And I'm pleased about that. So it means I constructed the songs well in the first place.
A question I missed from earlier that I'd love to get to the bottom of is the relationship between you and your brother, which musically is amazing. Was there ever a point when you were jealous because you were both competing for success together, but within the group, how did you and Dave get on?
Not very well until we made music, and I learned as a producer. I produced most of the stuff. Is to actually know how to utilize that wild energy. He's an incredible talent when he's on, and I always tell the engineer to press the record button first take, because generally he got it first take.
Wow.
And it's knowing the beast you're dealing with, and it was a great beast, and I miss him.
Do you ask yourself why you and your brother, why you were given this gift? Have you ever gone down that line, or do you just let be what is?
I just consider myself really lucky to have actually lucked out, and even the chord changes in You Really Got Me came by accident. I just hit a wrong note and went to an incredible key change. It's just I've been very lucky, and I appreciate it. But I also like to think I've learned my craft a little bit.
Have you any idea where that comes from then? I mean, you call it an accident. Someone else would say that's divine intervention. To call it accident, I mean, one of the greatest songs that's ever written that I still love playing on my show every day is a bit disappointing, really, isn't it?
What, to call it an accident?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they happen. I think the secret is to spot. I always spot anything that's quirky. When I was talking to Paloma Faith about doing Lola, she said, "Do you mind if I'm going to sing it because I'm a girl and it's about a transvestite, tranny or whatever?" I said, "No." I mean, she'd researched her song. Research is really important, and again, a lot of these artists are very savvy, but it's an instinctive thing. I don't think you can learn songwriting or performing at college, and I know there are a lot of new emerging music degrees and things like that, but it cannot give you that spark, and the spark of creativity. That is kind of divine thing, not divine intervention, but it's something you do work for. But the secret is to know it when it's there.
Congratulations on a tremendous album. I listened to it in the car and I didn't press next once, and that's a true test of genius when you don't get bored. What a lineup on this new CD. It's called See My Friends by Ray Davies, featuring Bruce Springsteen and Metallica and John Bon Jovi and loads of other people. We'll play that Paloma Faith track to end because it is tremendous, and of course a wonderful song as well, Lola. Ray, really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the programme.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.